I will never forget the moment my world tilted. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon in Indianapolis, the kind of afternoon where the golden light slipped through the blinds and cast soft shadows across the dining table. My son Jeff had invited me for what I thought would be a casual family dinner. Angela, his longtime girlfriend, was there too, her smile painted across her face like a mask I never quite learned how to read. I leaned back in my chair, my heart brimming with the excitement of finally addressing the question that had hovered for months. I looked at Jeff, then at Angela, and with a hopeful smile I asked, "So, when is the wedding?" The room went silent. Angela's eyes met mine, and in a voice smooth and unapologetic, she said words that cut through me like a blade. "We got married yesterday." My fork clattered against the plate. I stared at her, then at my son, waiting for him to laugh, to say it was some kind of joke. But Jeff only looked down, his hands fidgeting, his jaw tight. My heart sank into a depth I had never felt before. In that moment, it was not just about a missed wedding, it was about being shut out of my only son's life. And deep inside me, I knew this was not a mistake. This was deliberate. Before I go any further, I want to pause and say something important. To every single one of you watching, thank you. Thank you for subscribing, for returning, and for being part of this community. And to all the new faces here, welcome. I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button because it truly fuels me to keep sharing these stories with you. Do not forget to leave your thoughts in the comments and engage because your voices matter here. Now, let me take you back into the heart of this storm. My name is Melissa, and I am 58 years old. I raised my son Jeff in Indiana. His father left us when Jeff was barely 7, so I became both mother and father. Every basketball game, every scraped knee, every late-night homework session, I was there. I poured everything I had into him because he was all I had. When Angela entered Jeff's life 5 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms. She was polite, charming, and carried herself with confidence. But beneath that charm, I often caught glimpses of something else. Sharpness in her tone, little jabs hidden behind sweet words. Still, I told myself it was only my imagination. After all, Jeff loved her, and that was what mattered. But to hear that they had married without me, without even a phone call, broke something inside me. I tried to steady my voice at that dinner table. "Married? Yesterday? Why did no one tell me?" I asked. My chest tightened, as though the very air in the room had been stolen. Angela leaned back, her lips curling in that subtle smirk she often wore. She said words that cut through me like a blade. "We got married yesterday." In that moment, it was not just about a missed wedding. It was about being shut out of my only son's life. And deep inside me, I knew this was not a mistake. This was deliberate. Jeff finally spoke, his voice low. "Mom, it was sudden. We did not plan it for long. Please understand." Understand? How could I understand being erased from one of the most important days of his life? The boy I raised, the man I thought I knew, had left me standing outside in the cold. But as I looked across the table, I saw something in Angela's eyes, a glint, a satisfaction. It was as if she wanted me to feel the sting, to know I had been cut out intentionally. That night, after the dishes were cleared and I drove back home alone, the silence of my house was louder than ever. Every corner echoed with memories of Jeff growing up, the laughter, the tears, the milestones I had witnessed. And now, his greatest milestone had been stolen from me. I couldn't help but wonder, was this Angela's doing? Did she convince Jeff that I would somehow ruin their day? The thought clawed at me until sleep would not come. I sat awake, staring at the photo of Jeff as a boy, his gap-toothed smile staring back at me. A storm brewed inside me, equal parts heartbreak and anger. And then something hit me. Angela's words at dinner, that sly tone when she said, "just us." It was not carelessness. It was intention. And I was determined to find out why. But little did I know, The truth waiting for me was darker than anything I imagined.
The night after that dinner felt endless. I sat in my living room, my fingers tracing the rim of a coffee cup that had long gone cold. My mind drifted back to the years when it was only Jeff and me. Indiana winters were brutal, the kind that bit into your skin, but we survived them together. I worked 2 jobs, waiting tables during the day and cleaning offices at night, just to keep the heat on, just to put food on the table. There were nights when I wanted to collapse from exhaustion, but I never did. Jeff's smile was enough to push me forward. I would sit on the edge of his bed, watching him sleep, promising myself that one day all of this struggle would mean something. One day, I would watch him walk down the aisle, and I would stand proudly beside him as his mother. That dream had kept me alive through storms that could have broken me. And now, with one sentence, Angela had snatched that dream from me. The days following their announcement were tense. Jeff called me a few times, his voice cautious, almost apologetic. But every time I asked why they had chosen secrecy, he brushed it off with vague words. It just happened, or we wanted something small. But my instincts told me there was more. Something Angela was not saying. One afternoon, about a week later, I decided to drive to their house. It was a modest 2-story on the outskirts of town with freshly painted shutters and a neat little yard. I had helped Jeff with the down payment, a fact Angela never acknowledged. As I pulled up, I noticed Angela standing on the porch, phone pressed to her ear, her voice sharp. I parked quietly and cracked the window, catching fragments of her conversation. I told you, his family would only ruin things. They are too involved. He does not need them anymore. He has me now. My heart clenched. Every word was a dagger. She was talking about me, about my family, about cutting us off. Before I could confront her, she noticed my car and ended the call quickly, her face rearranging itself into that practiced, pleasant smile. "Melissa, what a surprise," she said, as if she had not just been stabbing me with her words seconds earlier. I forced a smile, but inside, I was trembling. "I just wanted to see how you both are settling in," I replied. Jeff came to the door then, his face lighting up when he saw me. For a moment, I saw my little boy again, the one who used to run into my arms after school. But Angela's hand slipped into his, pulling him slightly closer to her, as though she were drawing a line I was not meant to cross. We made small talk in the living room, but I could not shake what I had overheard. I wanted to scream, to demand answers. Instead, I sat quietly, watching Angela's every move, the way she answered for Jeff, the way she dismissed my questions, the way her eyes lingered at me with an edge of hostility she thought I could not see. When I left that day, the weight in my chest grew heavier. Back home, I pulled out an old shoebox from the closet. Inside were photos of Jeff growing up, his first day of school, his high school graduation, the prom night where he had borrowed my car and dented it, but I forgave him instantly. Every picture told the story of how much I had given, how much I had loved. And now, I was being written out of his story by a woman who had only been in his life for a handful of years. But something else kept gnawing at me, the phone call. Who was Angela talking to? What did she mean by ruin things? What exactly was she hiding? The next time I visited, I made sure to arrive unannounced. Jeff was not home, but Angela answered the door. She hesitated for a moment, clearly not expecting me, before letting me in. I noticed a folder on the counter, half tucked under some magazines. When she stepped away to grab coffee, curiosity got the best of me. I slid the folder open just enough to see its contents. Inside were documents, legal papers. My eyes widened as I scanned them. There was something about debts, names I did not recognize, and even a mention of court settlements. Before I could read further, Angela returned, and I quickly placed everything back. She handed me the coffee, her eyes watching me too closely, as if she suspected what I might have seen. "Angela," she said suddenly, her tone flat, "I know you care about Jeff, but sometimes mothers need to step back and let their sons live their lives. He is not your little boy anymore." The words stung, but beneath them, I heard the warning, a threat. She wanted me out of the way. That night, as I lay awake again, the puzzle pieces began to fit together. Angela had secrets, serious ones, and she was determined to keep me far away because she knew if I dug too deep, I would uncover the truth. And I was right, because the next week, a secret would crashing into my lap that shattered everything I thought I knew about my son's new wife. Angela was not who she claimed to be.
I could not carry the weight of suspicion any longer. For weeks I had tried to smile, to act as though nothing was wrong, but the truth pressed against my chest like a stone. The memory of Angela's phone call, the sight of those documents on her counter, they haunted me. And now I had to face it. It was a Saturday morning when I finally asked Jeff to meet me at the little diner near downtown Indianapolis, the one we used to go to after his basketball games. The smell of frying bacon and fresh coffee filled the air as I sat in our usual booth by the window, my heart pounding. When Jeff walked in, I saw the hesitation in his eyes. He knew why I had called. "Mom," he said softly, sliding into the booth, "you look tired." "I am tired," I admitted, "tired of pretending everything is fine when it is not." He shifted uneasily. "Is this about the wedding again?" "Mom, I told you—" "No, Jeff," I cut him off, my voice sharper than I intended. "This is about Angela." His jaw tightened. "What about her?" I leaned forward, my hands trembling as I held his gaze. "I heard her, Jeff. She said your family would ruin things. She said you do not need us anymore. And I saw papers, legal papers, debts, settlements. Do you even know who you married?" For a moment, his face flickered with doubt, but then anger replaced it. "You went through her things?" His voice rose and heads turned from nearby tables. "Mom, this is exactly what I was afraid of. You always think you know best. You always want control." The words stung like acid. I swallowed hard. "Control? Jeff, I raised you alone. I fought every battle so you could have a chance at a good life. And now I am being shut out. Do not twist this on me. I am trying to protect you." He shook his head, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "Protect me? Or protect yourself from being left out? Angela loves me. She makes me happy. Why can you not just accept that?" My eyes burned, tears threatening to spill. "Because happiness built on lies will not last. I am your mother, Jeff. I know when something is wrong, and something is very wrong." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the clatter of dishes and the distant murmur of other diners. Jeff leaned back, his eyes hard. "Maybe the problem is not Angela. Maybe the problem is you." Those words cut deeper than any blade. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Was my own son, the boy I had sacrificed everything for, really saying this to me? I watched him storm out of the diner, leaving me alone at the booth. My coffee had gone cold, untouched, but the ache in my chest burned hot. That night, as I sat in my living room replaying the conversation over and over, a knock came at my door. My heart skipped.
When I opened it, I found a thin envelope left on the porch. No name, no return address, just my name written in black ink. I brought it inside, my hands shaking as I tore it open. Inside were photocopies of documents, court records, police reports, and a name I didn't recognize at first, Angela's maiden name. I scanned the papers, my eyes widening with every line. Angela had been arrested years ago under her maiden name for fraud. There were lawsuits, unpaid debts, even restraining orders filed by people she had scammed. She had reinvented herself, changed her name, and hidden her past. I dropped the papers onto the table, my breath coming fast. This was the secret she was so desperate to bury. And Jeff, my Jeff, was blind to it all. Suddenly, the phone rang. I jumped, my pulse racing, and picked it up. It was Jeff. "Mom," his voice was unsteady, softer this time. "Angela told me you were digging into her past. She said you were making things up to drive us apart. Is that true?" I closed my eyes, clutching the phone tightly. "No, Jeff, I am not making anything up, and I have proof. Proof that the woman you married is not who you think she is." There was silence on the line, and then Jeff's voice broke. "If what you're saying is true, then everything I know about her is a lie." My throat tightened. "Come over, Jeff, please. You need to see this with your own eyes." He promised he would, but as I hung up the phone, a chill crept over me, because if Angela knew I was digging into her past, then she wouldn't sit quietly, and I had a terrifying feeling that she would do whatever it took to keep her secrets hidden. That night, I couldn't sleep. My house creaked with the sound of the wind outside, and every shadow seemed darker than usual, because I knew that when Jeff came face to face with the truth, it wouldn't just break his heart, it might destroy everything. And Angela wouldn't let that happen without a fight.
The next morning, I woke up before dawn. My nerves were raw, my stomach in knots. I kept glancing at the stack of documents on the coffee table, each one screaming the truth I knew Jeff had to see. By mid-morning, my son arrived. He stood in the doorway, looking exhausted, his eyes shadowed as though he had not slept either. For a moment, I saw the little boy I once carried on my hip, the one who cried when thunderstorms shook the house. But now, he was a man, torn between the woman he loved and the mother who had raised him. "Mom," he said quietly, stepping inside. "Show me." I led him to the table, my hands trembling as I spread the papers before him. Court documents, arrest records, evidence of fraud, all tied to Angela's maiden name. Jeff's face shifted from confusion to disbelief, then finally to horror. "This cannot be real," he whispered, his fingers tracing the black ink of the records. "Angela told me she had a rough past, but she never told me this." I placed a hand on his shoulder, my voice soft but firm. "She hid it from you, Jeff, because she knew the truth would change everything." Before either of us could say more, the front door burst open. Angela stood there, her face pale, her eyes blazing with fury. She must have followed Jeff, or maybe she had guessed he would come here. "So this is what you wanted, Melissa," she spat, her voice trembling with rage. "To poison him against me? To ruin my marriage?" Jeff stood, the paper still in his hands. "Angela, is it true?" For the first time, her mask cracked. She faltered, her lips parting without an answer. Her silence was the only confession Jeff needed. His voice broke. "You lied to me. You married me, and you never told me any of this." Angela's eyes darted between us, desperate and wild. "I did it for us. I knew your mother would never accept me if she found out. I changed, Jeff. I am not that person anymore." But her words rang hollow. I could see it in Jeff's face. The betrayal had cut too deep. "Get out," Jeff whispered, his voice shaking. "Get out of my mother's house." Angela's eyes filled with tears, but there was no sincerity in them. She turned sharply, her heels clicking against the floor as she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Silence fell. Heavy, unforgiving. Jeff dropped into the armchair, his face buried in his hands. I wanted to comfort him, to take away his pain, but I knew this wound was his to carry. All I could do was sit beside him, my presence a reminder that he was not alone. Hours passed as we talked. He asked questions, his voice breaking each time. Why had she done this? How had he been so blind? Was love always destined to turn into betrayal? I had no easy answers. All I could tell him was the truth I had lived by my whole life. Love without honesty is only an illusion. In the weeks that followed, Jeff filed for annulment. Angela fought, of course, but her lies were undeniable. The truth came out in documents, in testimonies, in the wreckage of her past that could no longer be hidden. Jeff moved back into his old room for a while. Every night, I would hear him pacing, wrestling with his thoughts. Sometimes he would sit at the kitchen table with me in silence, both of us drinking coffee we barely touched. And slowly, painfully, he began to heal. One evening, as we sat together, he looked at me and said, "Mom, I am sorry for not believing you, for letting her come between us." I reached for his hand, tears filling my eyes. "You do not need to apologize, Jeff. You were in love, and love makes us blind sometimes. What matters is that you see clearly now." He nodded, his eyes softening. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Looking back, the pain of being shut out of Jeff's wedding will always remain a scar. But scars remind us that we survived. I survived heartbreak, betrayal, and the fear of losing my son. And Jeff survived being deceived by the woman he thought he knew. The lesson I carry now is simple but hard-earned. Sometimes protecting the ones we love means standing firm even when they push us away. Truth may break hearts, but lies destroy souls. And now to you, my listeners, my family here on this channel, I want to thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story touched you, if it made you reflect on your own family, please drop your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever faced betrayal from someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who may need to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support is the heartbeat that keeps these stories alive. Until next time, remember this: love can heal, but only truth can set us free.